Dolphins at Daybreak by Mary Pope Osborne. We're starting in the middle of chapter 9. Annie peered into the crack between two halves of the shell. "I can't see anything," she said. "How does a pearl get in there anyway?" Jack read aloud from the wet page. "Sometimes a grain of sand will get between the oyster shell and its skin. This irritates the oyster, so it makes a pearly material to surround the grain of sand. In this way, over a few years, a pearl is formed." "I can't tell if there's a pearl in there or not," said Annie. "Maybe we should bang it against a rock," said Jack. "Now that would really irritate the oyster," said Annie. "Yeah." And here's the picture. You can see the treehouse, Jack's pack, how their clothes are wet. You can see Jack's feet are in the water. Annie's hair is drippy, and she's looking into that oyster while Jack's doing the research. "Maybe we should just leave it alone," said Annie. She gently put the oyster back in the water. "But how do we know if oyster is the right answer to the riddle?" said Jack. "Morgan said we'll know," said Annie. "Come on." Jack pushed his glasses into place. Then he and Annie picked up their shoes and socks. They climbed through the window of the treehouse. Morgan's scroll was lying on the floor. It was open. "Look," said Annie. She and Jack stared at the scroll. The riddle had faded away. In its place was one shimmering silver word: oyster. "Morgan's magic," whispered Annie. Jack let out a huge sigh. "We got it right," he said. "And here's the Pennsylvania book," said Annie. "Let's go home." She opened the book. She pointed to a picture of the Frog Creek woods. "I wish we could go there," she said. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. The wind blew harder and harder. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 10. The True Pearl. Dawn light slanted into the treehouse. No time at all had passed since they'd left. Day was breaking. Jack rolled up the ancient scroll. He tucked it into the corner. "We solved the first riddle," he said. 3 more to go." "I don't see another scroll," said Annie. "Maybe tomorrow we'll get the next riddle." "That's okay," said Jack. "I think I need to rest and dry out." His t-shirt and shorts were still soaked. His backpack, too. Only his shoes and socks were dry. "And this needs to dry out, too," said Annie. She put the wet ocean book in a patch of sunlight. Then Jack and Annie climbed down the ladder. They walked through the woods, through leafy shadows and golden light. They left the woods and started down their street. "You know, we should have found the answer to the riddle right away," said Jack. "The oyster was on the reef all along." "I know, but we wouldn't have had so much fun," said Annie. "Fun?" said Jack. "You call being squeezed by an octopus and chased by a shark fun?" "Don't forget the dolphins," Annie said simply. Jack smiled. "Right," he said. "The dolphins made up for everything. They were fun. I guess they were the true pearl in the oyster," said Annie. "Yep," said Jack. "I wonder what Sam is doing right now." "Sam?" Annie grinned at him. "You're nuts," she said. They climbed their steps and went into their house. "We're back," shouted Annie. "Did you get your shoes wet?" their mom called. "Not one bit," called Jack. Then he and Annie slipped up the stairs to change their clothes. And here's the picture. The end. That was a really good book. Thank you guys for listening to it and reading it with me.